And joining us right now, the Rothman Orthopaedics guest line from Sixers USA Today. That's Sixers Wire USA Today. Carlin rejoins the show. Make sure you guys are following him on Twitter and all that good stuff as well. Kai, what's going on, man? How are you?
What's going on, Mark? How are you?
I was doing really well when Joel Embiid came back to play basketball again because those two games were fun. And then not so well after Game 5. We know the numbers, the statistics about what losing Game 5 in a 2-2 series means, so things aren't necessarily looking up for the Sixers. What did you see in that Game 5? What happened to that Sixers team that left South Philadelphia for South Beach? What happened to them on that flight? What went on?
I don't know. I'm not saying that they did. I'm going to take a line from Stephen A. Smith. I'm not saying they looked like that, but it definitely looked like
right.
Out on South Beach the night before. It looked like they caught the Miami flu, Mark.
I'm not saying they were sitting next to me at the Cleveland or anything, but I'm saying they probably were sitting next to somebody. Right. Yeah, I get you. Yeah.
I mean, basically, just the effort just wasn't there, just from the jump. Miami jumped on them early, and it kind of has been like the trend in this series so far. Like the role players on both teams only play well at home. They don't play well on the road. So Max Strus, those same 3-pointers he missed in games 3 and 4 in Philadelphia, he was making in Game 5 down in Miami in his home arena, and he was able to knock those down. Strus was huge. Even Duncan Robinson got some playing time. I feel like that kind of threw the Sixers off a little bit, even though he didn't really make too much of an impact. Just his mere presence on the floor spaces it even more for them. Bam, I thought played with much more, I want to say aggressiveness, because normally Joel shuts him down every time they match up. PJ Tucker had 7 assists, which blew my mind. I was like, wow, PJ led him in assists. And then, of course, Jimmy Butler's Jimmy Butler, and he got some help in this one. Now it'll be interesting to see if the Heat shooters carry this with them to Game 6 in Philadelphia. But yeah, the Sixers are definitely in trouble. It was a pathetic effort from the jump. They really looked like they looked disinterested. Joel did look a little mopey, like whether it be because he lost MVP, because Joel really wanted that award. I don't think it was as serious as what Charles Barkley tried to make it out to be. But Joel definitely wanted that award, and I feel like it was that combined with the fact that he's playing with a freaking torn ligament in his thumb. He's playing with a broken face. He just got through the concussion protocol. All of that's just really tough to deal with and hard and tough mentally to deal with. And I feel like maybe that affected him a little bit. But, I mean, at the end of the day, there really is no excuse for what happened last night.
Okay, I agree that he did look mopey, but I think you just illustrated. Maybe I'm reading it wrong, but yeah, I think it was more the fact he's got a broken face. It wasn't so much the attitude as much as it was the physical ailments.
Yeah, no, for sure. A lot of that it was just a combination of a bunch of things. Yeah. And then I know a lot of people got upset about what people think was a Dwayne Dedmon no call, but if you look back at that replay, Dedmon hit the ball, and then it was just a series of unfortunate events. Dedmon was going for the ball. He hit the ball. The ball then went smack back into Joel's face, and with a broken face, when a basketball comes to hit you in the face, that is just going to make it worse. Just all around, mentally, that's a lot to kind of handle and a lot to deal with. It's tough.
Here's tell me if you agree or disagree, or you own your own spin, obviously, on it, of course. But I didn't think Joel Embiid played great in games 3 and 4. I thought he played well. He wasn't like the vintage Joel Embiid we've seen all season. And Maxey stepped up in game 3. Then Harden stepped up in game 4. Joel Embiid, yes, played below the standard he already set in this series, but nobody else stepped up to the plate to try to hit some threes or hit some jump shots or drive to the lane or make any type of difference in that game 5. That's what I took away from it.
Yeah, no, and I definitely 100% agree with you. I think the biggest thing, and I know I alluded to it earlier, the role players in this series continue to struggle on the road. And like you just mentioned, Maxey and Harden, and not to say those guys are role players, but they were obviously shots are going to fall at home. It's not going to fall on the road. You have to continue to kind of fight and dig until you find some type of offensive success and offensive rhythm that you can bank on. And on the road, you have to be able to continue to fight until you get to that point. And there was just no fight. It was kind of like the Heat hit him in the mouth. like I said, Miami went up 12 in the first quarter. Philly tried cutting it to, I think they cut it to 10 in the third quarter when Joel hit the jumper. And then after that, the Heat jumped them. They went up by as many as 37. And then, obviously you're not going to play Joel at that point. Pull him, get him ready for game 6. And you know what, Mark? I mean, this is why an effort like Tuesdays was why a lot of people still doubt this team, because and this wasn't just a Doc Rivers thing. This was a Brett Brown thing too. This team they have such weird nights like this one where it's just like we kind of scratch your head and you're just like, dude, where does this even come from? You guys are the talent you have on this roster. There's just, it shouldn't happen this way. Mark, game 5 in 2019 against Toronto, again, 2-2 series, and they get blown out by 36. Blown out 36, basically the same thing as it was in Miami the other night. Give that 19 team credit. They bounced back. They won game 6. And then obviously we know the Kawhi shot in game 7. Yeah. So this Sixers team right now has a chance to come home, force a game 7. But I don't think they can go back to Miami and win because again, the role players have proven they can't play on the road. Even in the Toronto series, like I mean, Embiid was terrific, and Danny Green knocked down some big shots. But I mean, Miami's a much better team than Toronto, so yeah. I don't think they can go back to Miami and win Game 7. So
wow, I don't want to live in a world where you watch post-process Sixers, man, drop 3 Game 7s of Eastern Conference semifinals, man, unbelievable. Yeah. That is crazy. So from what we have talked about, it sounds like obviously it'll come down a lot to the shooter, the role players and the guys coming off the bench and all that. You were at the Doc Rivers press conference on Wednesday in Camden. Anything jump out to you that suggests this team will be able to get it together for not 1, but 2 series, 2 more games left in this series?
I think a little bit. I mean, especially when, like, okay, listen, I know Doc gets a lot of criticism and a lot of hate from this fan base, which I feel like a lot of people need to kind of cut it out, especially with the season they had this year. But, Doc was down 3-2 in 2015 with the Clippers, and they had to go on the road game 6 in San Antonio against a Spurs team that still had Duncan, Parker, Ginobili, and they had a young Kawhi. And they went into San Antonio and beat the Spurs and then came home the game 7, and Chris Paul had that shot with the hamstring issue, and the Clippers end up winning that series. So Doc has experience in this situation when his team's down 3-2 and they're in a tough spot and they got to pick up a win. Even last year's team, remember they were down 3-2 to the Atlanta Hawks. They go into Atlanta game 6 and beat them, and then obviously we know what happened in game 7 that series too. But and then even 19, they were down 3-2 to the Raptors and they forced that game 7. So this team has proven some resiliency in the past. If you're asking me to pick somebody to win game 6, I am picking the Sixers to win game 6. I'm picking the Heat in game 7 because Philadelphia can't go on the road and beat them. And now you can be like, how can you say that? The Sixers have been a really good road team all year. They have. That's a regular season.
Right.
This is playoffs. You look at Miami's roster. Jimmy Butler has been to the finals. Bam Adebayo has been to the finals. And I don't want to hear the bubble. I just don't.
Right.
A lot of people always hit me with, it was the bubble. I mean, the bubble was hard as hell. Like you're stuck in a hotel room. You're being tested every day.
Jimmy Butler's charging you $20 for a cup of coffee, for crying out loud.
Yeah, for one small cup of coffee, Jimmy's charging you exorbitant amount of money. No, the bubble was hard. I hate when people try to discredit the bubble. It gets annoying.
I'm with you.
The point is, PJ Tucker's got a ring, and I know Kyle Lowry hasn't played, but he's played 2 games in this series, and he was pretty much ineffective. But he's got a ring. He's another one. These guys have been to the finals. Eric Spoelstra's got 2 rings. He's got 5 finals appearances. The Heat have been there, done that. The Sixers haven't, except for Danny Green. I mean, and Harden is the only other Sixer, I think, who's been past round 2. So, again, you look at this roster, they haven't been there. The Heat have. They've been there, done that. So, I think Sixers win game 6. They're back home. The shots will fall. They're not. I can't see them winning game 7 on the road. Just can't do it.
I wish I could have confidence in saying that even they're going to, absolutely win game 6. But the way they played, man, and you make a great point about the Raptors series with the Kawhi, the way that ended that game 5 of that series from a couple years ago. I would love to have the confidence that they're going to be able at least to force that game 7. I think they will, but I'm certainly not brimming with confidence about it. 2 things about the future. real quick, Doc Rivers, does he come back next year if they do get eliminated in another Game 7? What do you think happens with Doc Rivers in his future?
It's tough. I think, I know the Mike D'Antoni rumors are swirling, and it makes a ton of sense, especially when you consider the fact that he's got history with both James and Daryl from the Houston Rocket days. It makes a ton of sense. But D'Antoni's another one. What has D'Antoni won in his career?
Right.
What has D'Antoni, Harden, and Morey won in their career? It's like, as a trio. I understand they were 1 win away from the finals in 2018. I get it. And who knows, like, what happens with that team if Chris Paul doesn't get hurt? Who knows? But point is, they didn't win. So Doc, and this is what I was trying to allude to earlier. Doc has gotten so much flack this year, and I'm not sure why. Especially when you consider the Ben Simmons thing was toxic, dude. That was a toxic situation. And they were the number 3 seed going into the All-Star break because mostly Joel was superhuman. But Doc did a hell of a job gathering that team together and be like, yo, listen, forget the noise. Ben's not here. We're not even going to address Ben. We are going to play basketball. We're going to play our style. We're going to do this, and this, and we are going to continue to win basketball games, which is what they did. Had some clunkers in there, but for the most part, Mark, they were a pretty damn good team going into the All-Star break. Then you make the big trade, and that Harden addition, you're adding a future Hall of Famer, a top 75 player. That sends shockwaves throughout the rest of the roster. They had to make adjustments on the fly. They ended up being 51-31. Then they go up 3-0 against the Raptors. Joel suffers the thumb issue. They end up losing 2 in a row before winning Game 6, and then you go up against the number 1 seed in the East with your best player extremely hurt with a broken face. And again, I don't know why the Heat keep getting disrespected. It's weird, but the Heat are the number 1 seed, and there's no shame in losing to the number 1 seed when your best player is like maybe 70% of what he actually is.
Right.
So I would give Doc another year. That's just me. But it also wouldn't be shocking because of D'Antoni's connections with Morey and James. But if you're asking me, Kai Carlin, if I was to be GM, I'm giving Doc another year.
Okay. All right. There you go. Congratulations. I've just appointed you GM. Assistant to the regional GM. That's what we'll say. We'll say there you go. And then the very last thing, just real quick, James Harden, hamstring or age? What is making him not be the James Harden we have seen in years past?
Mark, I'm going to say both. I'm going to say both. I think the hamstring is definitely hurting him much more than what he's trying to lead on.
Okay.
And then also you got to consider he is 32. He's been in the playoffs so many times with the Houston Rockets. He's also had to do so much with those past Rockets teams. So he's got a lot of mileage on his body, a lot of stress on his body, having to pretty much score 30 to 40 every single night just for the Rockets to have a shot. And then you kind of throw in just the playoff wars going up against the Golden State Warriors, like how many years in a row? Like that's tough. Ask LeBron James, like how he's feeling after playing the Golden State Warriors so many years in a row. So then he goes to Brooklyn and he thinks that he doesn't have to carry the load as much because of KD and Kyrie, but just turns out the KD and Kyrie thing is just a volatile situation.
Yeah, pretty much
up there in Brooklyn. Then he comes to Philadelphia, and again, he's thinking that Joel's going to be Joel, and he doesn't have to do too much. He just has to play make and give only 20 to 25 points rather than 40. Then Joel gets hurt, and then again he's expected to give 30 to 40 a night again. He can't do it anymore, and I feel like it's a combination of the hamstring that's holding him back a little bit. So I'm interested to see a full summer of a rehab for him and maybe how he looks next year, but you also have to consider the mileage on his body. He's played a lot of basketball.
Certainly has. And I know that you writers get a lot of mileage put on you guys throughout the playoffs. So I appreciate you being so generous with your time on the show today, man, and breaking it all down for us. Kai Carlin, USA Today Sixers Wire has the Sixers winning Game 6 and then unfortunately dropping Game 7, but only the future will let us know for sure. Kai Carlin, always great catching up with you, man. Thanks so much. Do a great job for Sixers Wire as well. Appreciate you coming on the Farzy Show again, my friend.
Mark, thank you so much for having me on, man. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Kai Carlin joining us on the Rothman Orthopaedics guest line.